Chapter 2960. When his voice rang out, Ji Yuanqing's face was also livid with anger. He looked at Elder Dai and the others and said coldly, "Our direct descendants are disappointing. But for so many years, if it weren't for our direct descendants who established this family Ji, you wouldn't be able to yell at us here. My son, who he likes, it's up to him to decide. When the family asked him to propose back then, didn't they not inform me? You used my son as a scapegoat. Now that his engagement has been broken off and he has suffered all kinds of humiliation, he has come all the way back, and you only care about holding him accountable. Alright, since you insist on bickering, then I'll ask you. This engagement, who set it up in the first place? Does it have anything to do with our you? What? Why should he go and ask for her hand? I didn't speak before, and you all treated me as a cripple. Since that's the case, then I'll open my mouth today. Whoever set up the engagement should go and propose. Today, I will definitely avenge the humiliation my son suffered. You want us to explain in front of our ancestors? But Ji Yuanqing's life will end here. My son has embarrassed the family Ji. We are willing to plead guilty and accept punishment. But the person who set the engagement, pushed my son out to propose, and humiliated the family today, should he also come out to receive punishment? Who pushed my son out? All of you, King stand out. Ji Yuanqing's eyes were blood red. With a thud, a long saber was stabbed into the mud by him. Although his left arm was crippled and his strength hadn't improved at all, and he couldn't compare to the other branch family members of the same age, he wasn't a complete cripple. His strength was amazing back then, and he was many times stronger than the direct descendants of the family in the entire Dongting region. To put it bluntly, the current head of the family Ji Yuanqing, was not even qualified to carry a saber for him back then. Now that he had encountered an unexpected disaster, his personality had changed a lot. However, the hot-bloodedness of the past was still present. Now that this Elder Dai had belittled Ji Feiyu both openly and covertly, his hot-bloodedness erupted in an instant. As soon as he spoke, Elder Dai and the others were stunned. Indeed, the current Ji Yuanqing did not even have the qualifications to be on equal footing with them. However, no one had forgotten how high-spirited Ji Yuanqing was back then. In front of him, all of them had to bow their heads. They didn't even have the chance to look up at him. If it weren't for the fact that Ji Yuanqing encountered a huge change in his cultivation later on, causing his cultivation to stagnate. Even now, they still had to kneel in front of him and respectfully call him family head. Now that they saw him fly into a rage, everyone immediately recalled Ji Yuanqing's appearance back then. Immediately, they were unable to recover from their shock. Meanwhile, Elder Dai's face was flushed red. Not for anything else, but when Ji Feiyu went to marry Mo Zhuling back then, he was the one who jumped out the most. It could be said that Ji Feiyu's engagement to Mo Zhuling was completely pushed by him. And he did so naturally under Ji Yuanqing's instructions. Ji Feiyu's situation was actually not as bad as he had said. Even in the Dongting region, there were many direct descendants of the aristocratic families who wanted to marry him. Chapter 2961. But how could Ji Yuanqing allow Ji Feiyu to have contact with the aristocratic families of the Dongting region? Not even some small, inconspicuous aristocratic families. Not to mention the branch families of those high-ranking aristocratic families. Because if that was the case, he wouldn't be able to make a move against Ji Feiyu and the others. That was why he had set up a good show to make Ji Feiyu work for the family and marry Mo Zhuling. Otherwise, how could the Alliance Master of the Star Alliance, who was just a 9-star domain's Alliance Master, be able to form a marriage alliance with the Ji family whenever he wanted? Did their family Ji have no way to do anything? This was simply a joke. When Ji Yuanqing's voice rang out, the faces of the family Ji elders flushed red. This was because when they had decided to let Ji Feiyu marry Mo Zhuling, they had all agreed. It could be said that they had a part in Ji Yuanqing's words. At that moment, an elder flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, "It doesn't matter how this engagement was set in the first place. Ji Feiyu agreed to the family's request, so he should fulfill it. Otherwise, why would he have agreed to it in the first place?" As soon as he said this, he remembered that they hadn't given Ji Feiyu the right to refuse at that time and had only informed him of the matter. Immediately, his face turned a little green and then a little white. However, in the end he still stubbornly endured and said shamelessly, "Anyway, Ji Feiyu didn't explicitly refuse at that time, so it means that he agreed. In that case, now that the engagement has been broken off, it's his responsibility. How can you blame us? Ji Yuanqing, you didn't teach your son well, yet you blame us for giving him a chance to contribute to the family. As a father, you really don't know what you're doing." As soon as he said this, Ji Yuanqing's face became even more furious. At that moment, Ji Feiyu's voice rang out. "Elder, you're right. This is indeed my fault. I shouldn't have cared about the kindness that the family Ji has taught me all these years. I shouldn't have done nothing for the family Ji after taking up so many resources from the family Ji. I shouldn't have thought that my parents would need your help when they needed it, so I didn't reject you immediately. It's my fault. I'm leaving the clan now. From now on, I have nothing to do with the family Ji. Regardless of whether it is mockery or ridicule, humiliation or trampling, I will bear it all alone. I will no longer let you all be humiliated. Please approve." Ji Feiyu's heart was filled with indescribable ridicule and exhaustion. This was a member of their family Ji. After his engagement was annulled and he was summoned back from afar, the first thing he did was not to ask for the reason, but to convict him. He would rather listen to Qin Xiong, who had betrayed his master, than spend time listening to his explanation. They were so aggressive, what else could he say? Naturally, he would do as they wished. The only thing Ji Feiyu's heart ached was that he had persevered for so long in the family Ji, but in the end he still did not reduce the pressure on his parents. He still made them run around, work hard and worry for him. In the end, he still made them experience belittling and slandering because of him. Ji Feiyu could not hold it in anymore. Why didn't he reject the engagement with Mo Zhuling back then? Did the family Ji give him the right to refuse? They only told him that he should marry Mo Zhuling. Chapter 2962. But for so many years, everything he ate, wore and used, including the resources he worked hard to cultivate, were all given to him by his parents. It had nothing to do with the family Ji. But even if he knew this, Ji Feiyu couldn't expose the family's words and expose this lie. Because Ji Yuanqing and Li Shui were running around outside, if they encountered danger, he still needed the family to rescue them and give them a helping hand. Therefore, he couldn't fall out with the family and could only silently bear it. But now, in this elder's words, it was as if he had asked for it himself. The family had given him a great kindness, but he didn't cherish it. Didn't they know the truth? Ji Feiyu didn't want to say anything anymore. He stood there, his posture straight. "Please punish me, family head." He looked at Ji Yuanqing and said in a low voice. He didn't want to argue with anyone anymore. As soon as he said that, the expressions of all the elders turned ugly. Ji Feiyu's words were even more humiliating than Ji Yuanqing's. He clearly admitted that it was his fault. But listening to his words, every word was full of hidden meanings. Family Ji's kindness to him? What kindness? Family Ji didn't worry about Ji Feiyu's food, clothing, housing, and transportation at all. He was left to fend for himself. And they didn't even know where to start talking about resources. Ji Feiyu was a good-for-nothing. What kind of cultivation resources did he need? He didn't have any at all, okay? And all the efforts made to allow him to cultivate were all thanks to Ji Yuanqing and the others. This was something that could be found out with a casual investigation. As for the last sentence, it made them feel even more guilty. After all, Ji Feiyu and his wife were running around outside, and they actually needed Ji Feiyu to use himself as the price to marry Mo Zhuling in exchange for their help. From this, it could be seen how much they disregarded the other party's family. If it weren't for today's ancestral hall meeting, other than family Ji's people, no other family would participate at all. It was likely that Ji Feiyu's words would cause an uproar among the crowd. Who would have thought that the background of the Ji family was so filthy and ugly? In the face of Ji Feiyu's words, everyone was inexplicably speechless. At this moment, Ji Yuanqing's voice rang out. "I will follow my son and be exterminated from the clan." From now on, our family G's direct descendants will have nothing to do with you. This family G, you can do whatever you want. Let's go. As he spoke, he pulled Ji Feiyu and prepared to leave. However, at this moment, Ji Miao Miao's voice sounded. Wait, Uncle, are you leaving just like that? Ji Feiyu tarnished our family G's reputation and family values because of his love affair. Do you think that you can easily erase it by saying that you're willing to be expelled from the family and shirk your responsibility? Isn't this a little too optimistic? My father is benevolent, but I can't stand seeing you bully them like this. If you want to be expelled from the family, that's fine. Let out your blood and return your bloodline completely to the family G, and we'll let you go. As she spoke, she suddenly walked out from Ji Feiyu's side and raised her head to look at Ji Feiyu and the others with a mocking expression. To be expelled from the family? They wanted to leave the family G so easily? How could that be possible? It was more likely that they would leave behind half their lives and all their strength. When that time came, they would lose their status as direct descendants, and without the family G and strength to protect them, how long could they survive outside? There were many people in Dongting region who wanted to hit them when they were down. Chapter 2963. When she spoke, Ji Yuanqing and Ji Feiyu's expressions changed. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice slowly rang out. Miss Miao Miao, your words are very strange. She smiled. You sound so confident, as if you went to the Star Wilderness with them and saw how Ji Feiyu's engagement was broken off. As soon as Luo Qingtong spoke, everyone in the main courtyard of the ancestral hall looked at her. Who are you? Ji Yuanqing didn't speak before, but when he saw Luo Qingtong coming in from the ancestral hall, he immediately frowned. The Ji family's ancestral hall was an important place. How could anyone casually enter? Are those people guarding outside all dead? As soon as he spoke, Ji Miao Miao sneered and said, Father, this is the Luo Xiaoqi that Qin Xiong and the others talked about. The woman who bewitched Ji Feiyu and caused him to break off the engagement, making our family Ji a laughingstock. As soon as she spoke, Ji Yuanqing and the family Ji elders frowned. Ji Feiyu's cold voice rang out at this moment. Shut up. Ji Miao Miao, I've told you many times. She has nothing to do with my engagement being broken off. This matter has been confirmed by Ji Feitong and Ji Fighting. Don't talk nonsense. As soon as he spoke, Ji Miao Miao immediately laughed. Ji Feiyu, don't try to explain yourself to her. If you really have nothing to do with her, why are you so angry? Do you think we're all blind? As soon as she spoke, Ji Feiyu immediately became angry. I don't want to talk to you anymore. As he spoke, he took a deep breath and turned to Ji Feitong and Ji Fighting. When you were at the border of the Dongting region, you made it very clear, didn't you? Between me and her, there really isn't any love between us. Mo Zhuling broke off the engagement with me not because of her. That's right. Ji Fighting had a smile on his face. He looked at Ji Feiyu and nodded with a smile. That's what eldest cousin said, but, as he said this, he suddenly chuckled and said, I don't know whether this is true or not. After all, the investigation results haven't come back yet. That was right. In fact, Ji Feiyu had always had this idea, which was to make Ji Feiyu unable to defend himself. So what if the other party's engagement was broken off because of Luo Qingtong? What was important was what they said. If they say Ji Feiyu is, then he is. Ji Feiyu's face turned livid with anger as soon as Ji Fighting spoke. He pointed at Ji Fighting and said coldly, You were sure that I was telling the truth. Ji Fighting chuckled. I absolutely believe that what eldest cousin said is true. However, whether the elders believe it or not is not something I can decide. Ji Fighting was extremely scheming as he secretly changed the topic. At that time, he did know that Ji Feiyu was telling the truth. However, after he said this, it became Ji Feiyu forcing him to believe that he was telling the truth. In fact, he didn't mean this. As soon as he said this, Ji Feiyu gritted his teeth. He finally knew that no matter what, Ji Fighting and the others would not let him and his father walk out of the family Ji unscathed. These people Chapter 2964. Young Master Ji, are you sure you're telling the truth? Luo Qingtong looked at Ji fighting with a smile. The latter looked back at her with a polite expression. I'm sure I'm telling the truth. I wonder what Miss Xiaoqi means by asking this? Although I admire Miss Xiaoqi's courage to love and hate, and her attitude of going back to the family Ji with my cousin to face reality. But what I see is what I hear is what I believe. Speaking against my will goes against my will. I'm sorry, but I can't do as Miss Xiaoqi wishes. Sui Yu, Yen Yang, and the others' expressions changed immediately after Ji Fighting said this. This Ji Fighting is really shameless. He's obviously saying that Master said something to him in order to make him keep the secret. In other people's ears, it's as if Master once tempted him to help Ji Feiyu talk to her. Isn't this disgusting and despising Master? This Ji Fighting is as disgusting and hateful as his sister Ji Miao Miao. Yen Yang's eyes were red with anger, as if they were about to spit fire. Sui Yu and the others were even more furious. They gritted their teeth and looked at Ji Fighting and the others. These people were just like Ji Miao Miao, trying every means to deal with their young master and Xiaoqi. Sui Yu and the others had no doubt that even if they brought back witnesses and evidence, Ji Fighting and the others would be able to turn black into white and ignore the evidence. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Sure enough, their young master couldn't escape this time. It was a pity that even Xiaoqi was implicated. Everyone was sad in their hearts. They naturally wanted to live and die with their young master. But Xiaoqi could have avoided it completely. She wanted to clarify the truth for her young master, but she didn't know that the family Ji people didn't want to hear any explanation at all. They only wanted to attack their young master. They were the ones who harmed her. Even if she could cure their young master's problem of not being able to cultivate, they should have tried their best to stop her from coming. After all, their young master hadn't completely improved his strength and hadn't completely solved his problem of not being able to cultivate. He wasn't strong enough to fight against the family Ji people. Even if the fact that he could cultivate was exposed, it wouldn't stop the family Ji people from attacking them. Instead, it would agitate Ji Yuankuan and the others, making them no longer care about etiquette, justice, integrity, and honor, to destroy the last hope of the family Ji's descendants. Everyone felt their hearts filled with grief and indignation. But in her heart, Ji Fighting and the others. She knew from the beginning that Ji Fighting and the others would have such plans and actions, so she was not in a hurry. After all, since she didn't stop Ji Fighting and the others from having such thoughts, it meant that she had enough ability to deal with it. At that time, let's see who would be the victim of their own cleverness. Master Ji Feiyu, your master. I wonder if Master Ji Feiyu dares to swear in front of you that you're telling the truth. Ji Feiyu and I didn't prove our innocence in front of you? Ji Fighting's eyes narrowed when he heard her words. He didn't know why, but he felt that the woman beside Ji Feiyu was a bit strange. Chapter 2965. If not for Ji Miao Miao's arrival, relieving him of the pressure and attracting everyone's attention. At that time, the doubts about him were enough to make people doubt his ability and character. Now, this woman was speaking up against him. Did she have any way to prove her and Ji Feiyu's innocence? But how could that be possible? The family Ji was now under their control. Even if the final result was that Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu did not have any affair and that the annulment of the engagement had nothing to do with them, so what? As long as they insisted that it was not true, it would be useless no matter how much evidence they had. Make him swear? So what if he swore? He had said before that he did believe Ji Feiyu's words, but that did not mean that his words were necessarily true. Thinking of this, Ji Fighting immediately smiled and said, "Of course, I can swear to God that I don't know whether this is true or not, but I personally want to believe cousin. But cousin doesn't have any evidence to prove his innocence. Isn't that so? How can we believe you just based on your side of the story? Especially when Miss Xiaoqi came all the way to the family Ji. It's hard for us and the elders to believe that you don't have an affair." As Ji Fighting said this, his words were completely watertight. He could become the invisible young master of the family Ji not only because of his ability. His scheming ability was also top-notch. At this moment, the elders of the family Ji nodded repeatedly. They were even more disgusted by Luo Qingtong's aggressiveness. She had clearly bewitched and lured Ji Fighting to speak up for her but failed. Now, she was pressing him step by step. As the young master of the family Ji Fighting was naturally gentle, humble and polite. Although he did not directly reject her out of politeness, he still adhered to his principles. He was determined not to be tempted by the other party to lie. This was really good. With that thought in mind, everyone admired Ji Fighting even more. This was how the young master of the family Ji should act and behave. Ji Fighting was becoming more and more outstanding. They were really lucky to be in charge of the family Ji. On the other hand, Ji Feiyu was not only a good-for-nothing, but he was also infatuated with this aggressive, shameless, and ambitious woman. The elders of the family Ji did not think that Luo Qingtong came back with Ji Feiyu to clarify her and Ji Feiyu's innocence. In their opinion, the other party clearly wanted to whitewash her and Luo Qingtong, then take the opportunity to become Ji's wife and become a member of the family Ji. To be so diligent, it was really shameful. A woman from a low-level 9-star domain could only use such a move, right? Luo Qingtong's disdainful eyes as the other elders of the family Ji. Everyone looked disgusted. Some of them even berated Luo Qingtong and the others and asked them to leave the family Ji immediately. This was not a place where they could behave atrociously and speak freely. They were not welcome here. As for Ji Feiyu's engagement being broken off, they would naturally pursue the matter with her after they dealt with Ji Feiyu and the others. Ji Miao Miao gloated and felt pleased when she saw the elders' anger. Chapter 2966. Luo Qingtong glanced at her but didn't say anything. Instead, she looked at the family Ji elders and said, "I can prove that Ji Feiyu is innocent. However, I want Ji Fighting to make a new oath. When we were at the edge of the Dongting region, we once proposed to prove our innocence. At that time, it was very convenient to travel between the Dongting region and the Star Wilderness region, but Ji Fighting refused. He even said that he absolutely trusted us. Now he's saying that it's just a one-sided story. I want to know, what's his motive? If Ji Fighting dares to swear that when he said that, he had no selfish motives or calculations. I'll admit that I have an affair with Ji Feiyu. If you want to kill me or cut me up, it's up to the family Ji." As for Ji Feiyu and the others, Luo Qingtong looked at Ji Feiyu. The latter didn't say anything. He just said with a resolute and decisive expression, "I'll also be at the disposal of the family. It's up to you to extract my meridians and let my blood out, cut my flesh and return my bones." As soon as she said that, everyone's eyes immediately focused on Ji Fighting. The latter frowned slightly as he looked at Luo Qingtong. He felt that this woman was indeed very difficult to deal with. Why did she always choose to open her mouth at the most crucial moment? Usually, when others encountered such a trap, they would only feel that it was impossible to defend themselves. However, the other party quickly found the most crucial point from his words. Every time she opened her mouth, she killed his soldiers. Originally, if Luo Qingtong opened her mouth from somewhere else, no matter what she said, Ji Fighting would have a corresponding explanation to ensure that his words sounded flawless on the surface. However, every word and sentence pointed directly to the fact that Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu did indeed have an affair. At that time, he was absolutely not afraid to confront Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. However, at this time, Luo Qingtong avoided other points and only focused on whether he had an ulterior motive. Ji Fighting really didn't dare to say that he didn't. Immediately, his face darkened. Lady Shaoqi is really good at reading people's minds. He looked at Luo Qingtong and said indifferently, "Everyone has their own selfish motives. Eldest cousin and I belong to two different branches, although we are not enemies. But if you say that there is no selfishness between us, then I really can't do it." When he said that, Luo Qingtong immediately smiled. This Ji Fighting was quite interesting. This move of retreating in order to advance was well used. First, he said that everyone had selfish motives. Then he said that he had selfish motives, but he didn't want to hurt Ji Feiyu. In this way, he refuted Luo Qingtong's words that made him swear. She also made everyone think that Luo Qingtong was scheming and deliberately set up a language trap to make Ji Fighting swear to frame him. Sure enough, after hearing Ji Fighting's words, the family Ji's elders looked at Luo Qingtong with even more disgust. This woman is really scheming and vicious. I can guarantee that she definitely got close to Ji Feiyu on purpose so that Mo Zhuling would break off the engagement and she could climb up the social ladder. Look at her aura, she's only at the Sage Master realm. She's simply trash. Isn't that right? She's probably at the bottom of the 9-star domain. I really don't know which small family she's from. When she saw that Ji Feiyu and Mo Zhuling were engaged and that he couldn't cultivate, she took the opportunity to climb up the social ladder. Chapter 2967. Everyone was talking about it. Yen Yang's face was red with anger as she listened. How shameless were these people? Did their master want to climb up the social ladder because of their family Ji's status and strength? They would be scared to death if they knew Yi Qianxian's background. Why would their master need to climb up the social ladder of a small 8-star region? Did these family Ji people have to be so arrogant? Moreover, his master's current strength was clearly because something unexpected happened, which was why it dropped to the sacred expert level. When their master's strength was so great, these family Ji people couldn't even catch up. Who else could be like their master, who broke through to the level of a sage master when she was only a 14-year-old martial master? Not to mention the family Ji disciples from the 8-star region. Even the disciples from the 7-star and 6-star regions couldn't catch up to their master's level of strength. These family Ji people felt so good about themselves. Who gave them the confidence to diss their master like this? I'm so angry. Yen Yang was so angry that her hands were shaking. Her face was red, and her eyes were spitting fire. Chu Tianyi, listen to me. I don't care why you approached me and wanted to be with me. As long as you promise that you and the Chu family will respect our master, listen to her orders, and be her support, I will be with you. Otherwise, get out of my sight now and don't come near me again. Yen Yang was shaking with anger because of the family Ji. In the past, Luo Qingtong had protected her and Chu Lingfeng through so many hardships and dangers. Now, the family Ji people were dissing her like this. Luo Qingtong, but she couldn't do anything about it. She didn't want to continue like this. Who said that her master was only a young girl from a low-level 9-star region with no strength and influence? Who said that she could only climb up the social ladder of the family Ji? In the future, she would be her master's support. She would be her master's stepping stone. As long as her mistress was willing, she could kneel at her mistress's feet at any time and allow her to step on her and rise to the top. At that time, she would like to see who would dare to scold Luo Qingtong and say that she had no strength and influence. Yen Yang's eyes turned red while Chu Tianyi's eyes brightened. He didn't expect such a good thing to happen when he followed Luo Qingtong here. For the sake of Luo Qingtong, Yen Yang was actually willing to be with him. Although this kind of promise was completely to give Luo Qingtong a certain weight and support, and didn't really mean that she had forgiven him. However, it was still better than Yen Yang, who had always rejected him and ignored him. Chu Tianyi had been looking for an opportunity to help Luo Qingtong. What should he do if Yen Yang ignored him after he finished helping her? His identity had been exposed, and Yen Yang had suffered too much. She was not willing to open her heart and let him get close to her. No matter how much he did, she was always unwilling to believe him, and she didn't dare to believe him. But now, with Yen Yang's words, he could always be with her. Chu Tianyi dared to guarantee that as long as he had the chance to stay by Yen Yang's side, she would be moved by him sooner or later. Because he wasn't afraid that Yen Yang didn't know his true feelings. He was only afraid that Yen Yang wouldn't even give him a chance to express his true feelings. At that time, he would really have no other choice. With this thought, he agreed to Yen Yang's words without hesitation. As for what the Chu family would think, and whether they were willing to accept the fact that a young girl had surrendered to a 9-star region, he was too lazy to care. Chapter 2968. While Yen Yang and Chu Tianyi were whispering to each other, Luo Qingtong remained calm and unaffected by the family Ji's words. They were just a bunch of fools who were being played by Ji fighting. What was there to be concerned about? Luo Qingtong did not care about them at all. She looked at Ji fighting and smiled. Young Master Ji, you really know how to change the topic? I'm asking if you have any intention of scheming against Ji Feiyu. But you said that everyone has selfish motives. Although that's true, having selfish motives and having the intention to harm others are two different things. But I don't blame you if you don't dare to swear. After all, you and Ji Feiyu are enemies. The position of young master that you have should have belonged to him. You don't like him and want to scheme against him. It's normal for you to make him suffer or even die. But, at this point, Luo Qingtong's smile deepened and became colder. If that's the case, then young Master Ji shouldn't pretend to be so dignified and righteous. Because your hypocritical and pretentious face makes me feel nauseous and disgusted. As soon as she spoke, Ji Fighting's expression froze. Then he looked at Luo Qingtong with a cold and malicious gaze. The other party's words hit the nail on the head. Every single one of her words hit him where it hurt. But so what if that was the case? Unless she could prove her and Ji Feiyu's innocence in this family Ji, there was no way she could turn the tables. Miss Xiaoqi. Ji Fighting's expression was cold and malicious. He looked at Luo Qingtong and said softly with an icy gaze, "Your clever mouth is really sharp. But if you have the time to study my intentions, why don't you prove your and Ji Feiyu's innocence first? Otherwise, who knows if you and Ji Feiyu were prepared to prove your innocence? No matter what my intentions were, I did it for the good of the family Ji. But what about the two of you?" As he spoke, he looked disdainfully at Luo Qingtong and said with extreme contempt and disdain, "Of the two of you, one of you is shameless and hooked up with someone who is engaged. The other disregarded the engagement, the family, and has no sense of responsibility or family interests. Even if the two of you swear, why should I believe what you said?" At this point, Ji Fighting finally tore off his mask. He was too lazy to pretend to be humble and polite and gentle. So what if he schemed against Ji Feiyu and Luo Qingtong? He deliberately did not give them a chance to prove their innocence. But so what? Even if they proved it at that time, Ji Fighting could refute it by saying that they came prepared. In short, he was not going to let Ji Feiyu and the others walk out of the family Ji safely today. But now, Luo Xiaoqi had to be included. He wanted to see how this sharp-tongued and quick-witted girl would break out of this deadlock. Everyone was on their side. How could Luo Qingtong prove her innocence? She would not be able to walk out of the family Ji today. Ji Fighting snorted coldly and waved his hand, ordering people to close the door of the main courtyard of the ancestral hall. Chapter 2969. Ji Feiyu's pupils constricted. He rushed to Luo Qingtong's side and stood in front of her. "Ji Fighting, don't go too far." "As you wish. Let her go immediately." Ji Feiyu regretted it. He should not have agreed to let Luo Qingtong come. Who would have thought that Ji Fighting and the others would be so impatient? Ji Feiyu originally thought that since his blood curse was beneficial to Luo Qingtong, it would be fine for her to come along. At most, he would announce that he could cultivate and gain the support of the elders. At that time, Ji Fighting and the others might not be able to do anything to them. However, no one expected that Ji Fighting and the others would immediately head to Star Alliance to bring him back after sending the news to Star Alliance. In the Ancestral Hall, they had already prepared a battle array, not giving him a chance to catch his breath at all. They swore to beat him to the bottom of the valley. That's right. Ji Fighting and the others had been in charge of the family Ji for some time. To them, the existence of the direct descendants of the family Ji was like a thorn in their throats. They would not be happy if they did not get rid of it. How could they not make good use of such a good opportunity given to them? This confrontation in the Ancestral Hall was not only aimed at him, but also at the entire direct descendants of the family Ji. It was no wonder that he called his father and mother back. If not for the fact that his mother's family was not weaker than the family Ji and was even more tyrannical, Ji Fighting and the others would not even have to confront him in the ancestral hall and directly convict him of the crime. Ji Feiyu's eyes were filled with sorrow and mockery as he thought of this. He looked at Ji Fighting and the others and said in a low voice, "I'm willing to plead guilty. Let her go." Ji Feiyu already knew that Ji Fighting and the others had come prepared and would not allow them to defend themselves. He was not going to waste his breath on them. He could let Ji Fighting and the others deal with him. They could cut his meridians and bleed him. They could even cut his flesh and return his bones. As long as they let Luo Qingtong go. He did not want her to be implicated by him. He was willing to listen to them. As Ji Feiyu's voice rang out, Sueyu and the others' sorrowful cries could also be heard. "Young master!" Their hearts were filled with grief and they almost rushed towards Ji Feiyu and the others without a care in the world. However, they were restrained by the guards who waved their hands. Ji Miao Miao sneered coldly. "Ji Feiyu, it's too late for you to say that. When I asked you to plead guilty, didn't you say that you were innocent? Well, now that you can't prove it, you want to sacrifice yourself and let this be *tisich go? You're so infatuated. It's a pity that since she came to our family Ji today, she can forget about leaving. Our family Ji is not a place where any Tom, Dick or Harry can come and go as they please. Not to mention, this woman bewitched you and caused Mo Zhuling to break off the engagement. This is a great humiliation. Our family Ji will never let her off." Ji Feiyu's expression was smug and cold as she said this. At this moment, Yen Yang and Chu Tianyi, who were standing behind Luo Qingtong, were ready to make their move. Especially Chu Tianyi. After getting Yen Yang's promise to be with him, he was full of energy. He was only waiting for Luo Qingtong to give the order and he would immediately massacre the family Ji. Chapter 2970. Just as he was about to make a move, Luo Qingtong's voice rang out faintly. "Miss Ji, you're probably deaf. I've already said that I can prove my innocence with Ji Feiyu. You probably think I'm joking? Ji Feiyu is standing in front of me because he's afraid that I'll embarrass you and make a move on me in anger. Well, why are you so impatient when you see it?" As she spoke, she placed her hand on Ji Feiyu's sleeve and comforted him by holding his wrist through his sleeve, telling him not to be anxious. Then, Luo Qingtong stepped forward and said to Qin Xiong and the others behind Ji Fighting, "Qin Xiong, Commander Qin. It's said that the news of my affair with Ji Feiyu and his annulment came from you. Can you come out and confront me?" "Let's confront. Who's afraid of you?" Qin Xiong and the others felt a little guilty. However, they thought that Luo Qingtong had no evidence to prove that she had nothing to do with Ji Feiyu, and Ji Fighting and the others were obviously biased towards them. No matter whether they were telling the truth or not, as long as they insisted that Luo Qingtong had something to do with Ji Feiyu and the others couldn't do anything to them. Luo Xiaoqi, this idiot, actually wanted to confront them. Did she think that she wasn't dying fast enough? Thinking of this, Qin Xiong and the others' guilty conscience immediately disappeared. Instead, they became inexplicably confident. They stood out from behind Ji Fighting and the others and swore that there was indeed some kind of secret relationship between Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. That was why Ji Feiyu repeatedly defended Luo Qingtong. During the proposal banquet, Mo Zhuling annulled the engagement. Who could prove that it had nothing to do with the affair between them? The group said so cunningly. Every word was a trap, avoiding the most important point. This made people suddenly think that Luo Qingtong was completely promiscuous, shameless, and wantonly seducing Luo Qingtong. They originally wanted to deal with Luo Qingtong and get rid of her for the family Ji, but in the end, they were stopped by Ji Feiyu. Otherwise, the family Ji wouldn't have suffered such a great loss. The group said so and suddenly, they burst into tears. Not only did they slander Luo Qingtong, but they also expressed their loyalty to Ji and the others. As they spoke, the family Ji's elders all glared at Luo Qingtong. "Luo Xiaoqi, what do you have to say?" As they spoke, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She said to the family Ji's people, "This is your family Ji's territory. How can I believe that they are speaking from the bottom of their hearts and not being coerced by your family Ji's people? After all, you can put on such a show in order to deal with the direct descendants of the family Ji. It's hard for me not to suspect that you did something to them to make them angry but not dare to say anything. In this case, even if I can prove my innocence, what can I do? Everything is still up to your family Ji, isn't it?" Ji Miao Miao sneered. This Luo Xiaoqi wasn't too stupid. She knew that everything was up to the family Ji. But she actually thought that Qin Xiong and the others were coerced by them, so they said that. This was simply ridiculous. But since she thought so and wanted to prove her innocence through Qin Xiong and the others, then she would fulfill her wish. After all, it was rare to see people who took the initiative to court death. Chapter 2971. With that thought in mind, Ji Miao Miao turned to Luo Qingtong and asked, "What do you want? Do you want them to go outside the family Ji and tell everyone about the affair between you and Ji Feiyu? I don't mind. I'm just afraid that you won't dare." As she said this, she looked at Ji Feiyu and the others with contempt and disdain. The latter and the others did not hesitate at all. "They dare. I'll listen to little 7. There was no hesitation on Ji Feiyu's face. He trusted Luo Qingtong completely. Although it was obvious that this was a dead end. As long as Luo Qingtong said that she could do it, he would believe her without hesitation. Ji Yuanqing and Li Shui did not hesitate at all. They would always put their son first. Moreover, things had already come to this point. Whether they agreed or not, it would not affect the family Ji's people to deal with them. Since that was the case, what was there to care about? When they agreed, Ji Fighting's brows furrowed. He looked at Ji Miao Miao and said disapprovingly, "Miao Miao." Just as he spoke, before he could say anything, Luo Qingtong's chuckling voice was heard. "What's wrong? Young Master Ji, are you feeling guilty? It seems that I don't need to prove my innocence. Because you don't dare to let them leave the family Ji's territory to publicize the affair between Ji Feiyu and me. If that's the case, how will you convict us?" Luo Qingtong said this and said to Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing, "Let's go, Feiyu, Uncle Ji. Young Master Ji has already proven our innocence. We don't need to do anything more." As she said this, she immediately prepared to leave the family Ji's ancestral hall with Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuanqing and the others. Hearing this, Ji Fighting's frown deepened instantly. He could not help but wonder if Luo Qingtong was deliberately provoking Ji Miao Miao to do the opposite and target him. The purpose was to make him suspicious so that he could stop this from happening. In this way, Luo Qingtong and the others would be able to leave calmly? As Ji Fighting thought this, his face suddenly froze. At this moment, Ji Miao Miao's angry voice rang out. "Luo, stop right there. Who says we're guilty and we don't dare to let them out?" As she said this, she immediately gritted her teeth and lowered her head. She whispered to Ji Fighting, "Big brother, don't be indecisive. This woman is very cunning. Just now, she used her schemes to make us suffer a few big losses. Are you really going to let Ji Feiyu and the others off? This is a rare opportunity's good opportunity. We can catch Uncle and the others in one go. Don't tell me you're out of your mind after scheming every day." As soon as she said this, Ji Fighting's conflicted expression immediately became even more serious. At this moment, Ji Yuanqing spoke. "Let her prove her innocence." As he said this, he immediately looked at Ji Yuanqing with a smile and said, "Cousin, you know that I definitely don't want to wrongly accuse you. It's just that this matter concerns the family Ji's reputation in the future. I have to take it seriously. Since this woman says that she can prove her innocence with Feiyu, then I'll listen to her. However, if there's really no way to prove their innocence in the end, then cousin, don't blame us for offending you then. As for the gossip of others, I don't take it to heart." Chapter 2972. Ji Yuanqing sneered when he heard Ji Yuanqing's words. It was indeed obvious to all. Ji Yuanqing's family was best at acting. Ji Yuanqing didn't argue with them. In any case, no one would believe him even if he refuted. They walked out of the family Ji's ancestral hall. They saw the family Ji's people come out in such a grandiose manner. Everyone on the continent where the family Ji was located felt very strange. The family Ji was one of the most powerful families in the Dongting region. The continent where they were located was naturally one of the more prosperous places in the Dongting region. There were many people from other families who came and went here. They either passed by on business or stayed here for a long time to do business with the family Ji. In short, when they saw the family Ji's people walk out, they were all very curious. When they found out the reason, they were immediately in an uproar. Not because of anything else, but because this was a rare piece of gossip. The family Ji's good-for-nothing son had his engagement broken off by someone from the 9-star region. Not only that, but he also had an affair with someone else, and now he had to prove his innocence. The crowd immediately followed the family Ji's people to the central arena where the main city was located. When they arrived, Ji Feiyu and the others stood on one side, while Ji Fighting and the others stood on the other side. The remaining elders stood in the middle and looked at Qin Xiong and the others who were made way by the crowd. All right. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She looked at Qin Xiong and the others and said, "Commander Qin, you can tell us what happened after you and Ji Feiyu went to the Star region. Don't be afraid. Now that the family Ji's people have taken you out of the family Ji's ancestral hall, no one can force you to say anything you don't know. Now you can speak freely. Say everything you want to say." When Luo Qingtong spoke, Qin Xiong and the others looked at her as if they were looking at a fool. What kind of joke was this? What right did they have to be threatened by the family Ji? Those words were said by them to deal with Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu. Since Luo Qingtong didn't want them to be coerced, they could speak freely? Could it be that she had been scared silly by such a hopeless situation and had started to talk nonsense? That was what everyone thought. After all, everyone thought that Luo Qingtong was bluffing when she asked them to clarify the facts in the family Ji. She wanted to take the opportunity to force Ji Fighting and the others to retreat, because no one would want to expose such a thing in front of the world. Perhaps Luo Qingtong wanted to make use of Ji Feiyu and the others' mentality to force them to give up on dealing with Ji Feiyu and the others. But she didn't expect Ji Fighting and the others to agree. In this way, if she failed to do the opposite, she would have no other choice. But now, she was still talking nonsense in front of everyone. Thinking this, Qin Xiong and the others looked at Luo Qingtong with disdain and complacency, saying, "Okay, I'll do as you wish. Everyone, let me tell you what happened. After young master and I went to the Star Wilderness, we met Luo Xiaoqi. She seemed to be seriously injured and fell in the starry sky. We thought we had found a treasure, so we forced her to tell us the whereabouts of the treasure. The more Qin Xiong and the others spoke, the more panicked they became. This was because they realized that what they wanted to say was completely different from what they had said. What was going on? Chapter 2973. Stop. Qin Xiong and the others looked indescribably panicked. They desperately tried to stop the words from coming out of their mouths and tried their best to twist the matter back to what they had already planned to say. But no matter how hard they tried, those words were simply out of their control and kept coming out of their mouths. Everyone's foreheads were covered with sweat and they almost couldn't control the trembling in their hearts. Their minds went blank and they covered their mouths in embarrassment. But at this time, Luo Qingtong's expression was calm and she smiled. "Why don't you continue? I'm very interested to hear what you think. And what was the situation at that time? Why did you slander me and Ji Feiyu like this?" As she spoke, Chu Tianyi beside her released an invisible pressure, enveloping Qin Xiong and the others. With the strength of the latter and the others, how could they be Chu Tianyi's opponents? Naturally, they had no resistance and let him do whatever he wanted. Everyone's hands that were about to cover their mouths froze in place and they couldn't exert any strength at all. And their mouths, which were originally prepared to shut up, couldn't be closed anymore. They just kept talking about the scene at that time. We saw that Luo Xiaoqi was not strong at that time and she spoke up for young master and caused us to be punished, so we decided to kill her. But we were stopped by young master. Qin Xiong said with an extremely ferocious and vicious expression on his face to match his words. In fact, he was already crying in his heart. He struggled and shouted with all his might and didn't want to continue talking. But he didn't know why, as if he was possessed, he couldn't stop talking at all. At this time, he finally understood what Luo Qingtong meant when she said, "Let them speak freely." He didn't want to talk anymore. He really didn't want to talk anymore. It's over, it's over. This Luo Xiaoqi, is she a monster? How did she do this? Despair filled the hearts of Qin Xiong and the others. However, their faces were still extremely ferocious and vicious as they said, "However, young master is protecting Luo Xiaoqi in every possible way, not allowing us to do anything to her. In the end, he used himself as a hostage to make us give up on hunting Luo Xiaoqi. Our hearts are indignant." Coincidentally, young master's engagement was annulled. The 7-star Field's Lu family came to propose to Mo Zhuling. When we saw that the Lu clan was powerful, we ran away. At first, we thought that young master wouldn't be able to come back alive, so we lied to the family. It just so happens that young master and the others are also waiting for a rare opportunity to make a move on young master and the others. So we went with the flow. When Qin Xiong said until here, he was already on the verge of fainting. He actually dared to say such words. It was over. Even if Luo Xiaoqi didn't kill them now and let them leave, he could already foresee his miserable future. Young master and the rest wouldn't let him off. He actually said that the young master and the others wanted to deal with Ji Feiyu. Qin Xiong's body twitched for a while. At this time, Chu Tianyi released the pressure on them. The crowd immediately ran to Ji fighting and the others, kneeling and kowtowing to them. "Young master, family head, you have to make a decision for us. I don't know what kind of witchcraft this Luo Xiaoqi used to make our hearts and mouths insincere." Chapter 2974. As soon as they said that, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly sounded with a chuckle. "So, do you want me to prove the truth of your words in public?" Luo Qingtong looked at Ji fighting and the others with a playful look. The latter and the others looked ugly. They didn't expect that Luo Qingtong had such a trick up her sleeve. They had no doubt that Qin Xiong and the others didn't want to say these words at all. After all, even if they were given 100 guts, they wouldn't dare to slander them in front of so many people. Not to mention, they also overturned what they had said before. Weren't they digging their own graves? Unless Qin Xiong and the others were tired of living. Otherwise, they would never have dared to say so. Therefore, Luo Qingtong was the one who controlled them to say these words. Thinking so, the crowd suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong fiercely. Ji Miaomiao's voice was sharp. "Luo Xiaoqi. No wonder you had to change the location from the family Ji ancestral hall. So that's what you were thinking. I'm telling you, don't even think about it. Everyone here has eyes. They will never believe you." Ji Miaomiao looked angry. Her face was flushed red. Luo Qingtong, this B*TCH, could make Qin Xiong and the others speak according to her idea. They were going to be screwed by her. Fortunately, Qin Xiong and the others were alert. As soon as they recovered, they immediately begged for mercy and exposed Luo Qingtong. Otherwise, they would have to suffer this loss. However, she didn't know that Qin Xiong and the others were just talking nonsense to survive. Luo Qingtong controlled them to tell the truth. But they couldn't admit it. Otherwise, they would be finished. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong and the others wouldn't let them go. Even Ji fighting and the others would never let them go. Therefore, the crowd could only risk their lives to slander Luo Qingtong. They wanted to make people think that she was controlling them to tell lies. And the actions of Qin Xiong and the others just now were indeed very strange. When the crowd heard their words, they immediately believed it. Upon hearing Ji Miaomiao's words, the family Ji's elders were furious. They looked at Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu and said, "Ji Feiyu, you have really disappointed us. In order to cover up your affair with this woman, you actually disregarded the reputation of the family Ji and allowed her to do whatever she wanted and slander the members of the family Ji. What are your intentions?" How dare an outsider ask you to do this to a member of our family G? You guys are really despicable. You don't deserve to be part of our family G. That's right. Ji Yuan-kun, you didn't teach your son well and even allowed him to slander our family G's reputation. Your family isn't anything good. From now on, our family G no longer has a direct descendant. All of you, get out of the G residence immediately. Guards. The group of family G's elders were filled with righteous indignation and deeply felt that they had been fooled. And Luo Qingtong's method of proving her innocence was simply throwing their family G's reputation to the ground for others to trample on. Therefore, they couldn't hold back any longer and wanted to punish Ji Feiyu and the others by force. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded faintly. Originally, I didn't want to be so ruthless. But since you insist that my proof of innocence was a sham, then... Yi Zichen looked at Yi Zichen. Chapter 2975. As she said this, her figure suddenly flashed and she appeared beside Ji Feitong. The latter's lips were still holding a gloating sneer. At this moment he was looking at Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu, waiting to see how they would be unlucky. A group of idiots. They actually dared to go against Ji Fighting and the others. They wouldn't even know how they died. Especially that Luo Xiaoqi. Although she had some ability, she could actually control Qin Xiong and the others to say things that they didn't want to say. But that was all there was to it. Didn't she see that Qin Xiong and the others immediately refuted what they said as soon as they returned to normal? This Luo Xiaoqi had some ability. No wonder she dared to come to the family Ji with Ji Feiyu and wanted to clarify the matter between them. But since Ji Fighting and the others wanted to deal with them, how could they give her a chance to clarify? It was useless for her to set the place in the central arena. Even if it was in front of so many people, the Ji family still wanted to convict them of their crimes. As he thought this, the smile on his lips was indescribably cold and proud. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's figure appeared beside him. Before he could react, he heard Luo Qingtong say to him with a chuckle, "Young Master Feitong, you said that you liked me and were willing to help me at the last moment. I am very grateful. Please stand up and expose the sinister face of the family G's people. Young Master Feiyu and I are very grateful." Hearing her words, Ji Feitong felt a burst of confusion in his heart. What nonsense was this woman talking about? When did he say that he liked her and wanted to help her at the last moment? She was simply full of nonsense. Thinking this, Ji Feitong was about to angrily reprimand Luo Qingtong. In his opinion, Luo Qingtong didn't know what was good for her and rejected his idea of taking her as a concubine. Now, she came to him at this time. Could it be that she was afraid, so she wanted to beg him for mercy? She wanted him to beg Ji Fighting and the others to spare her life? However, it was too late. She had offended Ji Miao Miao, Ji Fighting, and the others for no reason. Ji Feitong didn't even dare to go against Ji Fighting and the others. Even if he dared, he would not go against them for Luo Qingtong. Therefore, he did not hesitate to berate Luo Qingtong. However, when he opened his mouth, he was shocked to find that the words he was about to say had changed. It became, "Good. Don't worry, I've long hated Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao's disgusting behavior. This time, I will definitely redress your grievances." What was going on? Ji Feitong was shocked. Luo Qingtong was smiling. She said to Ji Feitong, "Good, it's rare for young Master Feitong to be so righteous. Then, please expose Ji Fighting and the others' despicable behavior to the public." Luo Qingtong's face was full of smiles. Didn't the family G's people say that she had controlled Qin Xiong and the others to speak? Since they didn't want to hear the truth, then she would really control the family G's people to speak. Let's see how they would fall into eternal damnation. In fact, Luo Qingtong had already done something to Ji Feitong. She was just waiting for him to jump out at the critical moment to deal with Ji Fighting and the others. Originally, she didn't want to expose Ji Feitong in this arena. However, since the family G's people refused to admit that Qin Xiong and the others were speaking the truth, she could only force them to admit it. Chapter 2976. After hearing Ji Feitong's words, Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao immediately became furious. Ji Fighting in particular shouted at Ji Feitong coldly, "Ji Feitong, are you crazy?" After saying this, he thought that Ji Feitong might be under Luo Qingtong's control. He immediately shouted at her, "Luo Xiaoqi, what the hell are you doing? Haven't you learned your lesson from Qin Xiong and the others? How dare you control our family Ji's people to talk nonsense in the arena? Do you think we and everyone else here will believe you?" Ji Fighting was enraged. Luo Qingtong was simply courting death. How dare she do something to Ji Feitong? It was fine that she did something to Qin Xiong and the others. After all, they were the family Ji's servants. But now Ji Feitong was clearly their family Ji's people. She was simply courting death. Ji Fighting's face was filled with rage. Ji Miao Miao's voice was extremely sharp. "Catch that B***T6 right now. Let her control our family Ji's people. Bullshit." As she said this, the family Ji's elders immediately prepared to take action. Because Luo Qingtong's people were Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuanqing and the others. Ordinary family Ji's guards would be restrained if they took action. It would be troublesome if they escaped. However, Luo Qingtong did not look anxious at all. It was as if she did not see that the family Ji's people were about to take action. She stood beside Ji Feitong and smiled at the people around her. "You family Ji's people are really strange. Since you accused me of doing something to Qin Xiong and the others and controlling them to say things they shouldn't say, then I'll prove my innocence. Naturally, I'll prove my innocence and that I didn't do anything to them just now. What? Now that your family Ji's own people have come forward to expose you, you're panicking? There's no better way to describe you with a guilty conscience than with a guilty conscience. As for whether I'm controlling them or not, everything will be clear once young Master Feitong speaks. Young Master Feitong, please tell me all the dirty secrets of your family Ji. What's going on with Ji Feiyu going to the Star Desolate region to propose? How are Ji Fighting and Ji Miao Miao in the family Ji?" Luo Qingtong's words made Ji Feitong's teeth itch. This B***T was simply trying to kill him. However, did she think that this would be enough to deal with Ji Fighting and the others? What a joke. So what if she controlled herself and told him the truth? Ji Fighting and the others could still insist that she was controlling herself to speak. And when he returned to normal, he would insist that she was controlling him. When that time came, she and Ji Feiyu would still have a dead end. This idiot actually thought that asking him to speak was different from asking Qin Xiong and the others to speak. Thinking this, Ji Feitong sneered viciously in his heart. However, just as he thought this, he heard a series of words uncontrollably coming out of his mouth. These words were all about the secrets of the family Ji and the extremely vicious things that Ji Fighting had asked him to do. He also heard about what Ji Miao Miao had done. In short, this was a huge revelation. Chapter 2977. Oh my God, Ji Fighting and his people are so vicious. Did you hear that? It turns out that the young master of the Yuan family, who ranked second in the Dongting region, was not killed in an attack during training. Instead, Ji Fighting pretended to be friends with him and lured him to a dangerous place before killing him. That's right. There's also that young Master Yu from the Nangong clan. His status, temperament, and potential are all above Ji Fighting's. Yet, he somehow went blind and became an idiot. It turned out that Ji Fighting did something to his wound when he was injured, so that the poison in his body could not be removed. That's why he became like this. Oh my God, this is so vicious. It's hard to imagine. The family Nangong was very grateful to Ji Fighting at that time, thinking that he saved young Master Yu safely. Otherwise, young Master Yu would have died. For this reason, the family Nangong funded Ji Fighting with countless cultivation resources every year, and the family Nangong has always been the family Ji's staunchest ally. The family Ji's power and development over the years can't be separated from the family Nangong's help. Oh my God, if the family Nangong knew about this, he would be so angry that he would have a cerebral hemorrhage. Also, didn't you hear? Miss Sikong, who was unparalleled and beautiful in the Dongting Pavilion, was tricked by Ji Miao Miao into being naked in public. In the end, she was so ashamed and angry that she was forced to become a nun. Yes, and the young lady of the Qing family in the Dongting Pavilion, because she gently said that Ji Miao Miao was blocking her way, she held a grudge against her and secretly disfigured her face. Oh my God, these two siblings are like a snake and a scorpion, and a vicious woman. Everyone was speechless in their hearts. When they heard Ji Feitong's words, they had no doubt that Luo Qingtong was manipulating Ji Feitong to say these words. After all, these things had happened in the Dongting Pavilion for many years. Except for the people in the Dongting Pavilion, very few people knew about it. What Ji Feitong said and the details were very detailed. Not only that, some things were done by him personally, so he did not lack any evidence or details. According to his words, he could easily find out the truth of the matter. When the crowd heard this, it was clear at a glance. They already knew in their hearts whether these words were true or false. The family Ji's people really deserve it. Luo Xiaoqi was ready to stop after she made Qin Xiong and the others tell the truth. I didn't expect them to be so relentless. In the end, they even made Qin Xiong and the others accuse Luo Xiaoqi, saying that she controlled them to speak. Is this a slap in the face? That's right. With so many scandals being made public, Ji Fighting's reputation as a gentleman has completely collapsed. Oh my God, to think that I used to worship him. I must have been blind. Luo Mayan. And that Ji Miao Miao, who usually pretends to be a noble and inviolable legitimate daughter, turns out to be such a disgusting and vicious person. You really have a heart as vicious as snakes and scorpions. The other members of the family Ji are not good people either. Haven't you heard? They sent Ji Feiyu, the son of the first wife, to arrange a marriage, but secretly prepared to kill the other party. Now that the other party's engagement was broken off, they seized the opportunity to attack the first wife. They used to boast about being respectful to the first wife, but it was all a pretense. Chapter 2978. The crowd discussed animatedly as they looked at Ji Fighting and the others with disdain. One could imagine how quickly these words would spread throughout the entire Dongting region after today. When Ji Feitong's words rang out, Ji Fighting and Ji Yuankuan's expressions turned extremely ugly. As for Ji Miao Miao, she let out an "ah" and fainted from anger. All of her image had collapsed at Ji Feitong's words. From today onwards, she would be the most vicious woman in the entire Dongting region. However, she didn't even have a chance to refute because everything Ji Feitong said was the truth. And the things she had done weren't just limited to this. As long as someone was willing to dig, they would soon be able to dig up all the other things she had done. Ji Miao Miao couldn't imagine the impact it would cause. At this moment, Ji Fighting's collapse was no less than Ji Miao Miao's. What he had done was much more serious than Ji Miao Miao's. In order to become a unique young talent in the entire Dongting region, he had done so. He didn't know how many people he had gotten rid of openly and secretly. Those people were either eliminated by him directly or by someone he had arranged for. In short, if they were exposed, the situation would be much more serious than Ji Miao Miao's. At this moment, he didn't even dare to say a single word. He was deeply afraid that others would find out some clues from his words. There wouldn't even be a need for an investigation. They could directly convict him of a crime. At that time, the aristocratic families who would come to seek justice would probably flatten the entire family Ji. As Ji Fighting thought of this, his heart suddenly throbbed with pain. As for Ji Yuankun, needless to say, he had originally asked Luo Qingtong to come here to prove her innocence in order to completely crush the psychological defenses of Ji Yuanqing and the others. He wanted them to be completely unable to defend themselves in front of the surrounding onlookers. In this way, their family Ji would dispose of them, gain a good reputation, and get rid of their own mortal enemy. However, who would have thought that Luo Qingtong would actually stage a desperate counterattack at the last moment? This B*Teach had actually hidden her intentions from the beginning and lured them step by step to such a situation. Looking at Luo Qingtong's previous actions, it was obvious that she had a way to deal with it, but she just didn't do it, causing Ji Yuankuan and the others to mistakenly think that they had no way to deal with it. After all, no matter how one looked at it, Luo Qingtong and the others should have no chance to refute. Ji Feiyu, this traitor, brought such a woman back to their family Ji. This bastard. Ji Yuankuan's expression was ugly, but he forgot that if they hadn't forced him step by step, there wouldn't have been such a result. But now, he blamed it on Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu, and the others. He was simply speechless. On the other hand, Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuankuan, and the others' faces were filled with indescribable surprise. Ji Feiyu's heart was in his throat, especially when Qin Xiong and the others immediately betrayed them as soon as they were free. He was even more worried about Luo Qingtong. If he hadn't miscalculated and misjudged Ji Fighting and the others' eagerness to deal with him, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have fallen into such a situation where she was slandered and dealt with. His heart was filled with indescribable regret. He had already made up his mind. If there was really no way to refute in the end, then he would use his life in exchange for Luo Qingtong's safe departure. Presumably, when the time came, the family Ji's people would no longer be able to forcibly stop Luo Qingtong and his father from leaving in front of so many people, right? Chapter 2979. Everyone's hearts were filled with indescribable excitement. Yen Yang's tense expression also eased a little. So Master was waiting for them here. No wonder she didn't make a move before. Serves them right, these people from the Ji family. Yen Yang was gloating in her heart. These family Ji people thought that their master was a soft persimmon that they could pinch and flatten. Now they finally realized that their master wasn't a weak bun that could be bullied, but a cactus with thorns all over its body. They were really blind to deal with their master. There were also Qin Xiong, Ji Feitong, and the others. Yen Yang looked at their frightened and desperate expressions and snorted coldly in her heart. They actually thought that their master was easy to bully when she asked them to do something to her master. They had caught a handful of thorns, right? Qin Xiong and the others were dead meat. They had just coaxed the family Ji people and made the family Ji people think that they were being controlled by their master when they spoke the truth. Therefore, they had been aggressive and caused Ji Feitong to fall into their trap. What he said in the end was completely beyond the family Ji's ability to bear. If not for this, when the family Ji people knew that Luo Qingtong had the ability to make people speak the truth, they wouldn't have been so aggressive and would have chosen to keep the peace. It seemed that their master had deliberately let Qin Xiong and the others go free to see how they and the family Ji people would react. Now, it seemed that they all deserved it. And Ji Feitong, this fool, had been controlled by their master and revealed so many secrets of the family Ji. Would the family Ji people let him go? Letting him die would be a light punishment. At that time, these two groups of people would definitely be tortured to death by the family Ji people. And the family Ji people would also suffer the punishment of losing their reputation. It could be said that it was a dog-eat-dog situation. Her master's personality was still the same as before. Whoever dared to deal with her, she would definitely return the favor. Moreover, she was more mature than before. As Yen Yang thought of this, she pursed her lips and smiled. There was an indescribable joy in her heart. She couldn't stand Luo Qingtong being wronged and slandered. Otherwise, he wouldn't have temporarily put down his hatred for Chu Tianyi for the sake of Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong was her life, her root, and her faith. The young girl was slandered and looked down upon. She felt even more pain and discomfort than herself. Now that Luo Qingtong had turned the tables and trampled the family Ji's people into the mud, Luo Qingtong's heart was filled with satisfaction. For a family of actors like the family Ji, having their fake skin torn apart was probably more painful than anything else, right? Serves them right for being hypocritical and pretentious. While Yen Yang was thinking about this, Chu Tianyi, who was beside her, looked at her expression and praised, "Our master is really amazing." Of course, Yen Yang felt proud and her gaze towards Chu Tianyi softened a little. This man was not bad. In any case, he knew to protect her master with her. As long as he could persevere and protect her master with her, from now on, she would not mention the past again and slowly walk out of it. Luo Qingtong had given her and her son a new life. She was also willing to walk out of the past for the sake of Luo Qingtong. As long as it was something beneficial to Luo Qingtong, Yen Yang would not hesitate to do it, even if it meant letting her forget the painful and miserable past. Chapter 2980. Humph, let's go. The family Ji's elders were livid. They ignored Ji Yuankun, Ji Fighting, and the others and left one after another. They were in cahoots with Ji Yuankun and the others only because Ji Yuankun and the others were in power. In their minds, Ji Fighting was the best candidate to inherit the family Ji. But now, according to Ji Feitong, even they were shocked by what Ji Fighting had done. In particular, in order to stand out in the Dongting region, Ji Fighting didn't even spare the members of the family Ji outside, not to mention the young and promising geniuses in the family Ji. Many young talents from the elders' families were also persecuted by Ji Fighting, which made them extremely shocked and angry. Ji Miao Miao was even more vicious. All the talented and good-looking girls in the family Ji were killed by her. No one knew what was going on and only thought that those girls were unlucky. But now it was clear that they were a threat to Ji Miao Miao, so they were killed. What was even more disgusting was that even though Ji Fighting had personally ordered people to do some of these things, in the end he still went over to comfort the victim's elder family and tried to rope in the other party's young talents to make them work for him. It was as if they shared a common hatred for a common enemy. He was really vicious to the extreme. The brother and sister sang the same tune, making the family Ji's elders and families count the money for them even after being sold. This scheming and viciousness really made people gasp in amazement, and it was also an eye-opener for the surrounding onlookers. The family Ji's elders were ridiculed for being blind. They actually defended Ji Fighting and the others, and even thought that they were the best candidates to inherit the family Ji. Now, they finally suffered the consequences of their own actions, and retribution fell on them. The crowd left in a huff, and Ji Fighting and Ji Yuankun both looked extremely embarrassed. They didn't dare to say anything more and immediately left with the unconscious Ji Miao Miao. As for Ji Feitong, who was still talking with a face full of despair, he was also knocked unconscious and brought back. Luo Qingtong didn't stop them. She had set up this trap so that Ji Feitong and the others could receive the punishment they deserved. If she let Ji Fighting and the others take him back, she could imagine what kind of punishment he would suffer. She didn't need to dirty Luo Qingtong's hands. Why wouldn't she do it? As for Ji Fighting and the other clans of the Dongting region would deal with them. Luo Qingtong didn't plan to attack them at this time. After all, Ji Feiyu's blood curse hadn't been discovered yet. And just now, Luo Qingtong discovered something interesting. He was afraid that the blood curse on Ji Feiyu's body wasn't just targeted at him. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she thought of this. Just as they were about to leave the arena, Qin Xiong and the others rushed in front of them and kowtowed to Ji Feiyu, begging for mercy. "Young master, Miss Luo, we know we were wrong. Please forgive us." Qin Xiong and the others finally realized how stupid they had been before. They actually wanted to bite Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu to escape the family Ji's punishment. However, if they were to face the family Ji's punishment, although heavy, it wouldn't hurt them. Chapter 2981. The crowd didn't care about their image. They all knelt in front of Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu, kowtowing desperately and begging for mercy with tears and snot. However, Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu were indifferent. Especially Ji Feiyu. He saw with his own eyes how arrogant and hateful Qin Xiong and the others were. They made irresponsible remarks several times and wanted to kill him and Luo Qingtong. It wouldn't be enough for such people to die hundreds of times. How could he spare them? If it weren't for Luo Qingtong turning the situation around, not to mention Luo Qingtong, even his parents wouldn't be able to escape family Ji's punishment. Now, the other party actually dared to beg for mercy? They really took advantage of his kind and gentle temperament. Ji Feiyu's eyes were cold. He ignored them and walked straight ahead. Sui Yu and the others rushed forward and kicked Qin Xiong and the others. Get lost. What happened when you were thinking about young master and little Qi's death? Good and evil will be repaid in time. Just bear with it. As they spoke, they kicked them away without hesitation. Qin Xiong and the others were in despair. Seeing that Ji Feiyu and Luo Qingtong had no intention of letting them go and didn't want to save them, they became even more daring and rushed towards Luo Qingtong while facing Sui Yu and the others' attacks. You bitch, it's all your fault that we ended up like this. We'll kill you. Qin Xiong and the others' faces were ferocious. They gathered all their strength and rushed towards Luo Qingtong in an extremely violent and terrifying manner. If it weren't for this bitch, how could they end up like this? If they killed her, they might be able to redeem themselves in front of Ji Fighting and the others and let them survive. With this thought in mind, they immediately rushed towards Luo Qingtong even more ferociously. However, before their attacks could reach Luo Qingtong, boom. In an instant, a violent attack with an unstoppable force rushed toward them. In just an instant, they were sent flying. A bunch of trash, how dare you be impudent in front of our master? Chu Tiany's voice was cold. Standing in front of Luo Qingtong, he didn't even look at Qin Xiong and the others who were sent flying. If Luo Qingtong hadn't specifically told him not to reveal his true strength, he would have already crushed Qin Xiong and the others. Luo Qingtong attacked him in front of him. Did he think that he was dead? As soon as he attacked, Ji Feiyu and the others were shocked. Especially Sui Yu and the others. They originally thought that Luo Qingtong and the others wouldn't be a match for Qin Xiong and the others. They immediately rushed over to stop Qin Xiong and the others. But they didn't expect that before they could do anything, Qin Xiong and the others had already been sent flying. Shao Qi's bodyguard was actually so powerful. This strength was at least at the early stage of the human martial realm. Such a person was actually her servant? No wonder the people of True Spill Continent were able to receive the attention and protection of the Star Alliance even though they were from a low-level continent. They feared that it wasn't because the people of True Spill Continent were descendants of powerhouses who had made great contributions to the Star Alliance, or because there were treasures in True Spill Continent. It was because of Luo Qingtong. Everyone was surprised. Chapter 2982. F***CK. Didn't they say that the girl Ji Feiyu brought back was an ordinary girl from a low-level 9-star region? In order to climb up the family Ji's social ladder, she deliberately bewitched Ji Feiyu and made him break off the engagement with the eldest daughter of the Star Alliance of the Star Wilderness region. What the F***CK, this kind of low-level 9-star region girl, with a human martial realm guard, please give me a dozen of them. I'm willing to be bewitched. That's right. Do the family Ji people treat her like a fool? A girl with a human martial arts realm guard like her wants to be with Ji Feiyu. Does she need to bewitch him and make him break off the engagement with Mo Zhuling to get what she wants? What a joke. That's right. The family Ji people even said that she wanted to climb up their social ladder. My God, how can they be so shameless? Don't they know how powerful the family Ji is? Ji Yuankuan has only just entered the human martial arts realm. His cultivation is only at the beginning of the human martial arts realm, right? Even so, he's only qualified to be her guard. How dare they say that she's trying to climb up their social ladder? I'm going to laugh my teeth out. The crowd was almost one-sidedly laughing at the family Ji people. If they had already believed that Luo Qingtong and Ji Feiyu were innocent after hearing what Luo Qingtong had told Ji Feitong, then they were even more convinced after seeing Chu Tiany's display of strength. Because with the strength behind Luo Qingtong's display, she was qualified to be with any young talent in the Dongting region, let alone Ji Feiyu, who was recognized as trash in the Dongting region. After all, the person behind her was an expert at the beginning of the human martial arts realm. Such a person would be considered an overlord in any 8-star domain. The family Ji was a powerful family in the Dongting region, but Ji Yuankuan's strength was only at the beginning of the human martial arts realm. Such a level of strength was only on par with the strength of Luo Qingtong's guard. What was there to be proud of? The crowd was gloating in their hearts. They only felt that the family G people were extremely stupid. Facing such a powerful girl, they actually said that she was trying to climb up the social ladder and offend her to the point of death. Did water get into their brains? While the crowd was discussing Ji Yuankuan and Ji Feiyu, Ji had not gone far. Originally, Ji Fighting and the others were prepared to ignore Qin Xiong and the others when they went back to beg for mercy. Yuankuan, 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 Ji, Yuankuan, Ji, Yuankuan, Yuankuan, Ji, Yuankuan, Ji, Yuankuan, Yut, Yuankuan, Yukuan. They. Ji Feiyu and Ji Feiyu did not pay much attention to them at first, but when the mocking laughter behind them became louder and reached their ears, they realized what kind of opportunity they had missed. The girl who came with Ji Feiyu from the Star Wilderness region was only at the Sage Master realm. The guard behind her was actually at the beginning of the human martial arts realm. He sent Qin Xiong and Ji Feiyu flying with one blow. Was this true? The crowd was stunned. Especially Ji Feiyu. He did not expect the strength behind Luo Qingtong to be so strong. Ji Feiyu tried hard to recall Chu Tianyi, who was behind Luo Qingtong. He could not see his strength at all. He was actually at the human martial arts realm. Such a strong cultivator was actually berated by the venerable realm maidservant behind Luo Qingtong to the point that her nose was not her nose and her eyes were not her eyes. Chapter 2983. His expression was shocked to the extreme, followed by jealousy. Ji Feiyu actually had such a young girl by his side. With a guard in the human martial arts realm, her identity was definitely not as simple as a young girl from a low-level 9-star region. Damn it, Qin Xiong and that group of idiots had completely messed up his chance to curry favor with a young girl from a powerful family. Ji Fighting's expression was furious and shocked. Ji Feitong's expression was completely lifeless. The power behind Luo Qingtong was actually so strong. Previously, he had still gone to her and asked her to be his concubine. He had even scolded her for not knowing how to appreciate favors. Now it looked like who was the one who didn't know how to appreciate favors, and who was the one who was stupid enough to court death. If it weren't for that stupid action, perhaps Luo Qingtong wouldn't have done anything to him and used him to deal with Ji Fighting and the others. Because the ones who had been dealing with Ji Feiyu and the others were not him, but Ji Fighting and the others. As Ji Feitong thought this, his heart instantly collapsed with regret. While they were still in shock, Luo Qingtong, Ji Feiyu and the others had already left the arena. Ji Yuanqing and the others were shocked by the power of Chu Tianyi behind Luo Qingtong, and their attitude towards her became even more respectful and grateful. In fact, even if Chu Tianyi hadn't revealed her power, their gratitude towards Luo Qingtong would definitely not be small. After all, if it weren't for Luo Qingtong's appearance, they and their son would never have been able to escape the persecution of Ji Fighting and the others. Anyone could see that Ji Fighting and the others had wanted to catch their entire family in one fell swoop, expel them from the family Ji, and abolish the direct line of descent. At that time, the family Ji would be under the control of the other party. Of course, reality had proven that the family Ji had long been under their control. Otherwise, why would he and his son be unable to explain themselves? As Ji Yuanqing thought this, he immediately mocked in his heart. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She did not decline Ji Yuanqing's gratitude. After all, although she was clarifying things for herself, it was an indisputable fact that she had saved Ji Feiyu and the others. There was no need for her to be modest. The group chatted as they walked into Ji Feiyu's courtyard outside the family Ji. This was where Ji Feiyu usually lived. Because he did not have a good time in the family Ji, he spent most of his time in the villa. The things inside were very complete. After arriving at the villa, Ji Feiyu told Ji Yuanqing and Li Shuyi about what Luo Qingtong had told him about the blood curse. The two of them had no idea that Ji Feiyu's inability to cultivate actually hid such a sinister truth. They had searched for famous doctors and rare treasures, but the fact that Ji Feiyu could not cultivate still could not be changed. Everyone thought that Ji Feiyu was born a good-for-nothing, including themselves. But now, Ji Feiyu told them that the reason he could not cultivate was not because he was a good-for-nothing. It was because someone had put a curse on him, and it was an extremely vicious soul blood curse. The two of them felt that the sky was about to fall. Fortunately, Ji Feiyu later told them that Luo Qingtong could cure him. Moreover, she came back with him this time to solve the problem of the soul blood curse in his body. When Ji Yuanqing and Li Shuyi heard this, they almost wanted to kneel down in front of Luo Qingtong. To them, their son was the most important thing. For Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuanqing and Li Shuyi could ask to leave the clan. They even ran around for more than 10 years just to find a way to prolong Ji Feiyu's life. Now that they could finally get what they wanted, how could they not be excited? While the two of them were excited, Luo Qingtong looked at Ji Yuanqing seriously and said, "Uncle, if I'm not wrong." Chapter 2984. As soon as she said that, Ji Yuanqing's expression froze. He looked at Luo Qingtong and said with some difficulty, "Miss Xiaoqi, why do you say that?" When he spoke, his tone was 30% hopeful and 70% hopeful. He looked at Luo Qingtong with a cautious expression. Luo Qingtong looked at him and said with a deep expression, "My abilities have not fully recovered, so I am not very accurate. But Uncle Ji, your body has an aura similar to Ji Feiyu's. If I'm not wrong, the soul blood curse on you and him should be of the same origin. It's just that the blood curse on you is not as vicious as his soul blood curse." Luo Qingtong naturally had her reasons for saying that. Although her bloody eyes had not fully recovered, she had helped block Ji Feiyu's soul blood curse. She was very sensitive to the aura of the soul blood curse. The moment she saw Ji Yuanqing, she had already sensed that Ji Yuanqing had an aura similar to the soul blood curse on Ji Feiyu's body, but it was much fainter. If she guessed correctly, the reason why Ji Yuanqing's cultivation had not improved for so many years was probably because of this blood curse. As for why Ji Yuanqing's blood curse was weaker than Ji Feiyu's, Luo Qingtong thought that it was probably because Ji Feiyu's aptitude was many times better than Ji Yuanqing's. Therefore, the person who had originally cursed Ji Yuanqing had abandoned him and cursed Ji Feiyu. As she thought this, she immediately said to Ji Yuanqing, "Uncle Ji, when your strength stopped falling, was it when Ji Feiyu was born?" As soon as her words left her mouth, Ji Yuanqing's expression froze. He looked at Luo Qingtong and nodded with difficulty. Luo Qingtong said that when his strength stopped falling, it meant that she knew that his strength was constantly falling. Ji Yuanqing recalled the past. Back then, he was full of vigor and had broken through to the 9th level of the Purple Venerable Realm early on. He was only waiting for the last step to break through to the human martial arts realm and inherit the position of patriarch. The people of the Dongting region, the thousands of high-class continents, and the forces of countless regions all thought that he would amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and become the fastest cultivator to break through to the human martial arts realm in the Dongting region. However, things did not go as he wished. One morning, he suddenly discovered that his strength was constantly dropping. What kind of terrible experience was that? Ji Yuanqing didn't want to think about it anymore. He only knew that his strength was dropping at an extremely frightening speed, and this drop was simply irreversible. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how hard he tried, no matter how many elixirs he consumed, no matter how many rare herbs he swallowed, no matter how hard he tried, 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 no matter how hard he in that period of time was when Ji Yuanqing was at his most devastated. Just as his strength was about to drop from the venerable realm, Ji Feiyu was born. After that, his strength stopped falling. At that time, he thought that his son was a lucky star, but he didn't expect that he couldn't cultivate from the moment he was born. Ji Yuanqing had always blamed himself. He felt that when his strength inexplicably dropped back then, he must have inherited something to Ji Feiyu. As a result, when his son was born, he had to bear the infamy of being a good-for-nothing. He also did his best to treat Ji Feiyu well. But now, it seemed that the person who caused the tragedy of him and his son back then was not himself, but the person who secretly cursed him. Chapter 2985. As Ji Yuanqing thought of this, he immediately gritted his teeth until they bled. Bastard! He squeezed these two words out from between his teeth. His heart was filled with extreme hatred. For the sake of Ji Feiyu's inability to cultivate in his strength, the father and son had suffered so much, and how much humiliation and ridicule had they suffered. But now, he learned that all of this was man-made. The person behind the scenes, he must make him suffer a fate worse than death. Ji Yuanqing's heart was filled with hatred. At this moment, Li Shi also gritted her teeth and said in a deep voice, "Jigen, Ji fighting. It must be the father and son." There was a reason for Li Shuyi's suspicion. Ji Yuankuan and Ji fighting were of the same origin, and they rose to power almost at the same time. Just as Ji Yuanqing's strength continued to decline, Ji Yuankuan's strength increased by leaps and bounds, and he rose to power later. And Ji fighting was also born after Ji Feiyu was identified as a good-for-nothing. After that, he had always carried the name of the family Ji's genius and had been glorious for more than 20 years. As Li Shuyi thought of this, even her voice was so cold that it seemed like ice shards were about to fall. If Ji fighting and his son were really the culprits, then she would definitely make them pay with blood. She would not be merciful. When her voice sounded, Luo Qingtong shook her head and said, "I don't know if it's the two of them. For the time being, we shouldn't alert the enemy." Luo Qingtong's blood pupil had been overused because she had helped Ji Feiyu obtain the ability at the marriage proposal banquet. She had not fully recovered yet, so she could not see the connection between Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing and the mastermind behind the scenes. Therefore, it was not appropriate to alert the enemy at this time. Otherwise, if the mastermind behind the scenes saw through it. Luo Qingtong's blood pupil had not recovered yet, so she could not save Ji Feiyu and Ji Yuanqing when the other party activated the blood curse at the same time. As for Li Shuyi, ever since she found out that Luo Qingtong could treat Ji Feiyu and told her about Ji Yuanqing's past, she no longer doubted her. Hearing this, she immediately nodded and said, "All right, Miss Xiaoqi, don't worry, I'll listen to you." Luo Qingtong immediately chuckled and said, "Well, Auntie Li, you don't have to be particularly worried. The family Ji's people won't be able to escape. You can take this opportunity to watch the show. After all, it's a family Ji show. As for Uncle Ji and Ji Feiyu, during this period of time, Uncle Ji can treat his hand. As for Feiyu, he can increase his strength first. When the time comes, let's see how the family Ji people react." Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes as she said this. The family Ji people had suffered such a huge setback this time. If Ji fighting and the others were indeed the mastermind behind it, they would definitely not be able to resist taking action. By then, even if Luo Qingtong's blood pupil had not recovered, she would be able to easily identify the culprit. Once they found the culprit, the rest would be easy. When Luo Qingtong said this, Ji Feiyu, Ji Yuankuan, and the others' faces suddenly lit up. "Shao Qi, my father's hand can be cured?" Ji Feiyu's face was filled with surprise. He almost thought that this was a dream. Luo Qingtong being able to cure his blood curse was enough of a surprise. However, he did not expect that she could also cure his father's hand. He originally thought that she was only good at curing this kind of evil curse. Chapter 2986. Luo Qingtong chuckled. Looking at Ji Yuanqing and Li Shuyi's excited eyes, she said, "Yes, and it's not that difficult." Although Luo Qingtong's eye technique had not fully recovered, she could still use basic vision. Otherwise, how could she have escaped from a group of black-clothed men and silver-clothed guards when she first crossed over? However, the most basic vision could not see the hidden power behind the soul blood curse. Naturally, there was no way to see its traces and connections. Therefore, Luo Qingtong asked Ji Feiyu and Li Shuyi to wait, so as not to alert the enemy and cause a matter that could be easily solved to end up in a lose-lose situation. That would not be beautiful. What's more, she had to get the power of the blood curse controlled by the mastermind behind the scenes. Otherwise, wouldn't this trip have been in vain? Luo Qingtong's words rang out. In an instant, Ji Yuanqing and Li Shuyi's eyes filled with tears. Husband, did you hear that? Your hand can still be saved. Not only will your strength be restored in the future, even your hand can be healed. Husband. Li Shuyi covered her mouth, her face full of unspeakable excitement. God knows how many years their family had waited for this moment. Ji Feiyu's face was also full of excitement and joy. His father's health had always been a knot in his heart. And now, his life was finally complete. Little Seven, I really don't know how to thank you. He looked at the peerlessly beautiful and devilishly charming girl in front of him, and his heart thumped violently. How could he thank her? She was like a beam of light that suddenly shone into his life, illuminating his life. Ji Feiyu did not know what his life would have been like if he had not gone to the Star Wilderness and met Luo Qingtong. Perhaps he would have died helplessly after enduring extreme humiliation and trampling. Or perhaps he would have been used as fertilizer for his strength, dying an unnatural death in all kinds of misery and helplessness. And no matter what, his parents could not have been spared. They had worked hard for him for half their lives, but he did not even have the ability to repay them. He even implicated them to suffer humiliation and torture for him, and finally went to the Yellow Springs with him. And all of this was avoided because of Luo Qingtong's existence. Ji Feiyu did not know what salvation and faith felt like in this world. But if there was, it must be the feeling that Luo Qingtong gave him. Bright, wanton, confident, dominating, soaring in this world, she was incomparably unbridled. But in her heart, such a beautiful woman already had a sweetheart. Thinking like this, the light in his eyes, the light. He recalled Luo Qingtong's bright eyes and spirited expression when she mentioned that she had a fiancé in the convoy. At first, he didn't know what kind of expression that expression. But now he knew. She must love her fiancé very much. Even when she mentioned him, her face was incomparably cheerful and sweet. That was an atmosphere that no one could get involved in. Thinking like this, Ji Feiyu's heart instantly ached. In the past, he did not care about Luo Qingtong's words that she had a fiancé. But when he thought of it now, he felt that his heart was so tight that he could not breathe. Usually, I don't miss her. That's why I miss her, and that's why I miss her. Thinking like this, he pinched the corner of his clothes and slowly lowered his head. Sometimes, if you were one step late, would you be slow for a lifetime? Ji Feiyu did not know. But he knew that he might have missed Luo Qingtong's life. Chapter 2987. Ji Feiyu's face turned pale. Luo Qingtong did not see it because he had lowered his head. Hearing his words, she smiled and said, "It's all right. Don't forget that helping you is also helping myself. All right, all of you can go back and rest. I'll send you the list of medicinal herbs that Uncle Ji needs later. When the time comes, just find the herbs according to the list and send them over." Li Shuyi immediately agreed after hearing Luo Qingtong's words. "All right, Miss Xiaoqi, have a good rest." As she said this, she left with Ji Feiyu and the others. As for Yen Yang and Chu Tianyi, they both returned to their own rooms. Of course, it was a separate room. Yen Yang would not let Chu Tianyi take advantage of her. She had not completely forgiven him. How could she let him get close to her so quickly? Chu Tianyi was about to shamelessly follow her into her room when she slammed the door so hard that it almost hit him in the face. Yen Yang snorted coldly and said, "If you dare to take a step in without my permission, what we talked about before will be completely null and void." What did she talk about before? Of course, she was talking about getting back together with him. When Chu Tianyi heard this, his footsteps, which were originally about to continue forward, immediately stopped. The door in front of him was not an obstacle at all. However, he did not dare to take a step forward in the face of Yen Yang's words. Forget it. He still had a long life ahead of him. As long as she was willing to be with him, he was not afraid that she would not be able to untie the knot in her heart. As Chu Tianyi thought of this, he rubbed his nose and returned to the room next to Yen Yang's. Luo Qingtong was in her room. After taking a simple bath, she lay on the bed and took out the 9 phoenix ring from her storage ring to examine it carefully. I wonder what that man is doing now. As she thought of this, she gently stroked the pattern of the 9 netherworld phoenix ring and put it on her ring finger. Then, she raised her hand and took it off. Looking at the 9 nether phoenix ring being taken out without any hindrance, Luo Qingtong frowned slightly. The fact that the ring had been removed so easily meant that Yi Qianxian's ring was still sealed. That man was protecting her in his own way, wasn't he? He hadn't come to the star-desolate domain to look for her for so long. Was he held back by the matters in Tiandu? As Luo Qingtong thought of this, her brows furrowed even more tightly. Thinking of the scene when she left the abandoned continent, Luo Qingtong's eyes turned cold. Tiandu? Trying to stop her from being with Yi Qianxian was simply a pipe dream. Sooner or later, she would personally go to Tiandu and tell the emperor of Tiandu how blind he was. At this time, Luo Qingtong did not want to cause trouble for Yi Qianxian. That man was protecting her. She could not let anyone have the chance to use her to disturb his mind. As she thought of this, she immediately put the 9 nether phoenix ring back into her storage ring. At this time, in a certain territory many miles away from the Dongting region, Yi Qianxian was lying on the bed, looking at the sealed Shifang dragon ring in his hand. Just then, there was a sudden sound of footsteps outside. Master! Chapter 2988. Good. Yi Qianxian's eyes were ice cold. He straightened himself and stood up from the bed. With a wave of his hand, he put on a robe that was hanging at the side. Beneath the fluttering sleeves and golden patterns, he strode away. Immediately send out orders to the other members of Black Nether Palace. Have them block off all channels that Heaven Capital uses to reach True Spill Continent. I don't want to see anyone related to Heaven Capital appear on the border of True Spill Continent. Also, have the people of Black Nether Palace increase their attacks on Heaven Capital. I want them to have no time to attack True Spill Continent. Yi Qianxian's voice was ice cold. As soon as he left the abandoned continent, he knew that Heaven Capital's emperor and the others would not give up. Now, he really did see them attack True Spill Continent. Unfortunately, Heaven Capital's people had already missed the best opportunity to attack True Spill Continent. If they had recklessly attacked True Spill Continent the first time they found him, Yi Qianxian might not have been able to completely stop them at that time. But now, since he already knew that the people of Heaven Capital knew the location of the True Spill Continent, and Luo Qingtong just happened to return, how could he not be on guard? If Heaven Capital's people wanted to injure Luo Qingtong from his hands, that was simply a dream. And if they wanted to use this to force him to return, then that was even more ridiculous. The greatest mistake that Heaven Capital's people made was that they didn't think that he would be the lord of Black Nether Palace. As Yi Qianxian thought this, he coldly snorted and strode outside. Black Nether Palace's people had just been recalled and their internal situation wasn't completely stable yet. Yi Qianxian still needed to oversee this place. Once things stabilized here, he would immediately go to Star Desolate region to look for Luo Qingtong. That woman, he didn't know if she was thinking of him. As Yi Qianren thought of this, a hint of warmth and gentleness appeared in her cold and sharp eyes. The light in his eyes softened a lot. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others, who were originally suffocated by the cold and sharp aura on his body, breathed a sigh of relief. They knew in their hearts that their master was most likely thinking about the evil doctor again. Only when he thought of the evil doctor would his master's cold and terrifying aura, so cold that it could almost turn into a blade, be slightly restrained. Heaven Capital's people had truly provoked their master. They feared that Heaven Capital's army would suffer heavy casualties. His Majesty really underestimated Master. He thought that Master's strength would not be able to be fully displayed due to the heavenly vein body's limit. However, she did not know that her master had met a demon like the evil doctor. The drawbacks of the heavenly vein body in her body had been greatly alleviated. If it weren't for the fact that the strength of the evil doctor was not enough to completely cure the master, Heaven Capital would have been turned upside down. How could His Majesty and the others have the chance to use the evil doctor to threaten Master? As the crowd thought of this, they felt an indescribable sense of comfort and relief. They had tolerated it for long enough. Since their master's retirement, Heaven Capital's people had come to bully them. It was simply unbearable. This time, they had directly bullied their master's heart. Let's see how their master will deal with them. The group of people followed Yi Qianren as they strode out. At this time, in Ji Feiyu's residence in Dongting region. Chapter 2989. Someone from the family Nangong? Luo Qingtong looked surprised. She looked at Ji Feiyu, who nodded. Yes, someone from the family Nangong. The head of the family Nangong personally brought someone here to thank you. Little Seven, are you willing to see him? If you're not willing, I'll reject him for you. When Ji Feiyu said this, Luo Qingtong roughly knew what was going on. The family Nangong. That day in the central arena, she had asked Ji Feitong to reveal the conspiracy and secrets of Ji Fighting and the others. Among them, it seemed that a young master from the family Nangong had been blinded by Ji Fighting and had become a fool. And this family Nangong seemed to be very grateful to Ji Fighting. Over the years, he had taken advantage of them. So, was he here to thank her for letting them know the truth? As Luo Qingtong thought this, she suddenly laughed. She could already imagine the scene of Ji Fighting and the others being in a terrible fix and being betrayed by their friends and family. What Ji Feitong had said at that time was all true. As long as someone investigated, they would be able to find clues from the details revealed in his words. At that time, the things that Ji Fighting had done could not be hidden at all. Luo Qingtong even heard Ji Feiyu say that because of Ji Feitong's words at that time, everyone in the Dongting region who knew about this matter, who had encountered even the slightest bit of misfortune, would ferociously investigate to the death. At this time, the entire Dongting region was in an uproar. It could be seen that in the future, many sinister things that Ji Fighting had done but Ji Feitong had not participated in would be dug up. At that time, Ji Fighting and the others would suffer. As she thought this, she immediately smiled at Ji Feiyu and said, "Okay, then let's meet." In any case, she had nothing to do in Ji Feiyu's residence. And the news of her meeting with the family Nangong might even make Ji Fighting and the others fly into a rage and become restless. This made them even faster to act in desperation. With this in mind, Luo Qingtong immediately went to the hall with Ji Feiyu and the others. In the hall, the family Nangong and the family Nangong were already waiting. When they saw Luo Qingtong, they hurriedly stood up. The family Nangong thanked Luo Qingtong, "Miss Xiaoqi. It's all thanks to you that our family Nangong was able to see the true colors of Ji Fighting and the others. This is a small token of appreciation that we prepared. We heard that you were looking for these medicinal herbs, and our family Nangong happened to have some, so we sent them over. In addition, we've already sent people to find Ji Fighting and the others to settle the score. All these years, we want Ji Fighting to spit out all the things that he took from our family Nangong. When the time comes, we'll give them to you as a token of appreciation. At the same time, we'll also express our disrespect to young Master Ji when we didn't know what was right and wrong." The family Nangong's expression was very sincere. He waved his hand and had people send a pile of things over. Luo Qingtong took a look. These were the medicinal herbs that she had asked Ji Feiyu and the others to collect during this period of time that could treat Ji Yuanqing. Although it wasn't complete, it was obvious that the family Nangong had put in a lot of effort. And the resources that Ji Fighting had obtained from the family Nangong over the years were not a small amount. Luo Qingtong smiled lightly. She nodded at the family Nangong and said, "Okay, thank you, family Nangong. You're so considerate." Chapter 2990. When things were going smoothly for Ji Fighting and the others, everything was naturally good. Now that they had suffered a backlash, they finally knew what it meant to bring evil upon oneself was the hardest to bear. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She accepted these gifts without batting an eyelid. However, she would not accept family Nangong's gifts for free. There were so many aristocratic families who had been cheated by Ji Fighting and the others, but only family Nangong came to give her gifts. Luo Qingtong still had a balance in her heart. Since family Nangong's people had such intentions, she would naturally reciprocate. Was young Master Yu bitten by the 9 poisons and 5 evil spider? Luo Qingtong heard the onlookers vaguely mention this before, so she said to family Nangong's master, "If family Nangong's master believes me, you can go to the 9 poisons and 5 evil spiders' nest to pick a stalk of herb. That herb is in the shape of a light yellow water droplet. After squeezing it into water, mix it with the 9 poisons and 5 evil spiders' inner bladder and give it to him. There should be a cure, but I'm afraid it will be difficult for his cultivation aptitude to return to the past." When she said this, family Nangong's people were instantly stunned. Family Nangong's master also looked at Luo Qingtong with shock and excitement. Miss Xiaoqi, is this true?" His voice was trembling. Those who were harmed by Ji Fighting were basically young talents who were more powerful than him. He was known as the #1 genius in family Nangong, but in reality he was not the most powerful in the Dongting region. As for young Master Yu, he was the most outstanding among the family Nangong's younger generation. His death was a huge blow to family Nangong. Now that they heard Luo Qingtong say that he could recover, but he would not be able to return to his previous aptitude, everyone felt as if they had been hit by a pie. This was because there was a huge difference between having 1 more genius disciple and 1 less genius disciple. Not to mention a genius disciple like young Master Yu. Even if he did not have the amazing aptitude he had in the past, he would still be a great help to the family Nangong. Good. Miss Xiaoqi, I'll send someone to do it immediately. As long as it's effective, the family Nangong will do our best to help you in the future. With that, he hurriedly led the family Nangong away. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she watched the family Nangong people leave. She smiled faintly without saying anything. If that young Master Yu from the family Nangong woke up, wouldn't Ji Fighting's life be even more difficult? Let's see how long they can last. It wouldn't be long before the fox's tail would be exposed. When the head of the family Nangong and the others left in a hurry, a family Nangong disciple couldn't help but ask, "Uncle, can we trust Luo Xiaoqi's words?" Don't tell me she's trying to trick us? But I've never heard of a 9 poisons and 5 evils spider being cured in such a way. That's right, Grandpa. Another Nangong family clan disciple also followed up and said, "Our Nangong family clan's people searched for who knows how many famous doctors for Yenyu's poison. They all said that there was no cure, that the poison had already entered the heart. How could she treat it so easily? And so easily? We've never heard of such a treatment method." That's right. The family Nangong people discussed animatedly. They didn't quite believe Luo Qingtong. The head of the family Nangong reprimanded them. "What do you know? A bunch of idiots." As he said this, he suddenly took a deep breath and said to the group of Nangong family people, "From now on, no one is allowed to be disrespectful to Miss Luo. Not only that, in the future, you can only serve Ji Feiyu and the others. You must try your best to satisfy their requests." Chapter 2991. Let them make a choice. Should we continue to protect Ji Feiyu and the others, or should we send Ji Feiyu and the others back? If it's the former, then don't blame us for being impolite. The family Nangong's face was cold, but he couldn't help but feel excited. He suspected that Luo Qingtong was the little 7th young master who had caused a stir in the Heavenly Wind region and the Flying Star region. After the incident on the abandoned continent, although not everyone saw Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming together, News about her still spread in the 2-star regions. It even spread to the surrounding star regions. The family Nangong's master happened to have something to do before, so he went on a trip to the outer region. He happened to pass by the star regions around the heavenly wind region and heard about Luo Qingtong. Therefore, after learning that the woman brought back by Ji Feiyu was called Luo Shaoqi, and that she was followed by a human martial realm expert as a servant, he wanted to take a look and thank her. After all, there were many people called Luo Shaoqi, but they were of the same age and were followed by experts. These few points were not easy to match. Luo Qingtong didn't expect that there would be people in the true Spill continent who knew about her in the heavenly wind region. Therefore, when she reported her name to Ji Feiyu, she didn't make any special effort to hide it. Now, the family Nangong's master guessed that she might be the little 7th young master from the way she mentioned the antidote to the 9-poison 5 evil spider. Although he didn't know how she suddenly became a woman, Luo Qingtong's ability was very unique. The family Nangong's master had already determined Luo Qingtong's identity. It was just that Luo Qingtong obviously wanted to hide it, so he didn't say anything. Not only that, he didn't say anything to the Nangong family in case Luo Qingtong's identity was exposed and they were unhappy. Thinking of Luo Qingtong's identity as the little 7th young master, the family Nangong's master felt a burst of excitement. On the other hand, the family Nangong members were stunned. They did not understand why the head of the family Nangong would be so protective of Luo Qingtong. After all, even if the other party could cure Nangong Yenyu's poison, there was no need for them to act like this, right? Wasn't the patriarch going overboard? They were confused, but they did not dare to refute the family Nangong's words. The group went straight back to family Nangong. At this time, in the family Ji Yuankun, Ji Fighting, and the others also received the news that the family Nangong had gone to Ji Feiyu's residence to thank them. Immediately, Ji Yuankun's expression became furious. Bastard! He gritted his teeth. Ji Feiyu and the others, on the other hand, had soared into the sky. Where did that bitch named Luo Shaoqi come from? Damn it! Ji Yuankun was furious. He couldn't believe that he had planned for half his life and was about to completely control the family Ji in his hands and get rid of Ji Yuanqing and the others. But at this time, such a thing happened. Now, their family was completely hated by everyone in the Dongting region. And they couldn't stay in the family Ji any longer, because those elders could no longer stand what they had done and the trouble they had brought to the family Ji. According to the news Ji Yuankun received, those people were ready to join forces to deprive him of the position of the family Ji. At that time, they could only be driven out of the family Ji. Thinking of this, Ji Yuankun's face suddenly showed an extremely gloomy and cold expression. At this time, Ji Fighting's voice sounded. Chapter 2992. The moment he said that, Ji Yuankun's face was filled with shock. That method, he looked at his son, whom he relied on the most. Ji Fighting's expression was fierce. Father, I know you don't want to take that step unless it's absolutely necessary. But look, it's only been a short while and those families have already come knocking on our door. In the future, there will be more and more of these people. And these people in the family Ji obviously don't want us to stay in the family Ji anymore. If we don't use that method, are we really going to let them chase us out of the family Ji? At this point, he paused and said coldly, Father, you've used so many methods to get the family Ji. Now that all your efforts have been in vain, can you tolerate it? And those families that we've offended, once we leave the family Ji, they won't let it go. Now that we've come to this point, we might as well go all the way. At this point, Ji Fighting's voice was unusually vicious and heartless. He wasn't wrong. Luo Qingtong's reversal was too fast and effective. They didn't expect her to have such ability. And the words that came out of Ji Feitong's mouth were so detailed that they could almost be considered evidence. Ji Fighting and the others couldn't defend themselves at all. Under such circumstances, even if they wanted to twist the truth and say that Luo Qingtong was slandering them, no one would believe them. That was why Ji Fighting said that. They had already been completely turned around by Luo Qingtong and missed the opportunity. If they didn't act ruthlessly now, it would be too late. As soon as he said that, Ji Yuankuan's expression slowly changed. Fine. If they're heartless, I won't be righteous. Ji Yuankuan's expression was vicious. His voice was the same as his expression, carrying a sinister and vicious look. He didn't want to do this at first. But now, it was those people in the family Ji who had forced him. Let's go, I'll take you to see that lord. As Ji Yuankuan said that, he immediately led Ji Fighting to the secret room behind him. The two of them opened the door of the secret room and walked in. Soon, they appeared in a huge underground cave. Lord! In the underground cave, an extremely ferocious statue appeared in front of Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting. The statue's expression was extremely ferocious and terrifying. It had a green face and fangs, and its eyes were protruding. There were two huge sharp horns on its head. When Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting spoke, the statue's eyes suddenly moved and then focused on the two of them. What are you doing here? The statue's voice was unusually sharp and gloomy. It sounded like something sharp was rubbing against each other, causing a teeth-numbing sound. Ji Fighting and Ji Yuankuan's didn't even dare to raise their heads. It wasn't the first time the two of them had come here. But every time he came in and saw this statue, he still felt a chill in his heart. That's right, Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting relied on this statue. This statue was discovered by Ji Yuankuan during a training session in a mystic realm. He had already forgotten how he had discovered the abnormality of the statue and how he had awakened the soul within the statue. But he knew that it was because of this statue. Chapter 2993. Back then, there were countless genius descendants like Ji Yuankuan in the family Ji. The glory of the direct descendants. Ji Yuankuan's strength was not bad among the concubines, but compared to those genius descendants of the direct descendants, he was not worth mentioning at all. Not to mention compared to the previous proud son of heaven, the destined successor of the family Ji Yuanqing. However, after obtaining the statue, Ji Yuankuan's strength continued to advance by leaps and bounds. Not only that, the geniuses of the direct descendants fell one after another, and their strength stagnated. All of this was because this statue had absorbed their souls and essence, transferring their strength and aptitude to Ji Yuankuan. Even Ji Fighting's current strength and status had come about because of this. Why did Ji Fighting secretly harm so many family descendants outside? Other than the fact that the other party's strength and aptitude were above his, which made him jealous, the other reason was that the power of those people's souls could allow him to obtain a little more power from this statue. Otherwise, with the current situation of the family Ji's genius descendants withering, how could he maintain his genius persona? The two of them relied on this method to continuously rise to the top. Now that the matter was exposed, they naturally had to come here to ask for protection. Sir. Ji Yuankuan lowered his head and said, "What we did outside has been exposed. Sir, please help us." Hearing his words, the statue suddenly laughed. It looked at Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting and said sinisterly, "I told you to listen to me back then. What you did will be exposed sooner or later. Why don't you just sacrifice all the people of the family Ji? When I recover my true body, I will definitely give you supreme power. It will not be stronger than you guarding this family Ji now, but you are unwilling. Why, now you know to beg me." The statue mocked sharply. Ji Yuankuan and Ji Fighting could not refute it after a single sentence. It was not that they were unwilling at that time, but they were afraid that after this statue recovered its true body, they would no longer be able to suppress it. At that time, who knew what it would do to them? Over the years, they had gained some understanding of the strength of this statue. It could be said to be unprecedented and shocking. They were both shocked and excited. At the same time, they were also very scared. If the statue really left the current scene and recovered its true form, who knew what it would do to them in the end? What if it didn't fulfill its promise in the end and instead killed them and turned them into part of its body's power? Where would they go to cry? Therefore, the father and son had never agreed to this matter. But now, it was obvious that the family Ji could no longer tolerate them. The entire Dongting region saw them as scourges. What did they have to be afraid of? He might as well take a gamble and let the statue recover its true form. At that time, let's see if there are any clans in the Dongting region that would dare to raise their voices and demand justice from them. As Ji Yuankuan thought this, the expression on his face was extremely sinister. He looked at the statue and said, "We were wrong. We thought that the family Ji's people were related to us by blood, so we couldn't do it. So I thought of slowly restoring your strength and true body, my lord. That way it would be safer." That you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.